You clicked because you saw the word borax next to the word Romans, and something in you refused to believe those two things belonged in the same sentence. I don't blame you. 2 years ago, I would have scrolled right past this. But I'm going to show you 16 things a box of borax can do in your home, and most of them were written down by a Roman naturalist who died watching a volcano erupt. That's not a figure of speech. That man's name was Pliny the Elder. He died in 79 Anno Domini near Pompeii, and he left instructions we quietly stopped following. Here's the part that got me. The stuff sitting in the laundry aisle for a few dollars a box does jobs that people now pay hundreds of dollars a year to solve with a dozen different products. I tested it because I was too stubborn to believe it. I was wrong. And by the end of this, I'll show you the one use buried in an old Roman goldsmith's method that nobody talks about, the one I now use every single week. I remember the exact moment it flipped for me. I was standing at my kitchen sink last winter, holding a $14 bottle of some scented spray, reading the back label, and I realized I couldn't pronounce a single ingredient except water. That night I pulled out an old book, and the Romans, of all people, were the ones who set me straight. Now let me be honest with you about who I am, because it matters. I'm not a professor. I'm a man in his late 50s who spent most of his life thinking ancient history was trivia for people with too much time. I thought a toga was a costume and Rome was a pile of broken columns. I never once imagined those people could teach me how to run my own house better than the television could. But that's exactly what happened, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So let's start simple, because the simplest use is the one that saves you the most money right away. Your laundry. You've been sold the idea that clothes need a cabinet full of chemistry to get clean. A detergent, a booster, a softener, a brightener, a stain stick, and something with a name that sounds like a spaceship. The Romans washed wool in a public laundry called a falonica, and archaeologists have dug up more than a dozen of them in Pompeii alone, preserved under the ash. Inside those shops, they use mineral salts and alkaline compounds to lift grease out of fabric. Borax is a mineral salt. Sodium borate, pulled from dried lake beds. The same family of substances those fullers relied on to make cloth soft and bright. Here's what you do, and it costs you almost nothing. Half a cup of borax tossed into your wash with your regular detergent. It softens the water, and this is the secret nobody tells you. Soft water means your detergent actually works. In hard water, most of your soap is busy fighting the minerals instead of your dirt. That's why you keep pouring in more and more, and the whites still look gray. The Romans understood water quality mattered 2,000 years before we put it on a bottle. Add the borax, cut your detergent in half, and watch your clothes come out cleaner than before. I did the math on my own house. I was spending close to $200 a year on laundry products. I've cut that by more than half. But softer laundry is the smallest thing this mineral does, and if I stopped here, I'd be cheating you. Because the next question is the one that kept me up. If this stuff is this good and this cheap, why did we forget it? Why does nobody's grandmother's trick get passed down anymore? Therefore, we have to talk about what happened between Rome and your laundry room, and it's not an accident. See, for most of human history, a household made or bought a handful of basic substances and used each one for 20 different jobs. Vinegar, salt, oil, ash, borax, one box, many uses. That's the opposite of how you're sold things today. Today, the goal is to convince you that every single surface in your home needs its own specialized product with its own brand and its own price. A bathroom spray, a kitchen spray, a glass spray, a floor solution, a wood solution, a stainless steel solution, 12 bottles, 12 prices, and 11 of them are mostly water with a little of the same cleaning agent inside. Somebody profited from you forgetting that one cheap mineral could do the work of that whole shelf. I'm not going to pretend I know every boardroom decision, but I can read a price tag, and I can read Pliny, and I can tell you the Romans would have laughed at a cabinet full of single-use sprays. They'd have called it a swindle. And the deeper I dug, the more I found that the old single-substance wisdom was replaced on purpose, product by product, decade by decade, until we forgot we ever had it. So let me give you the next use. And this one shocked me because of where I found it. Roaches and ants. Pliny wrote extensively about natural substances that repelled and killed pests, and borax has been used as an insect control for longer than most of our great-grandparents were alive. Here's the method. You mix borax with something sweet the insects want, a little sugar and water into a paste, or a bit of honey. The ants carry it back to the nest, and it ends the colony at the source, not just the ones you see marching across your counter. I had ants every spring at my back door. Every spring I bought the spray, killed the line I could see, and every spring they came right back because I was only killing the scouts. The borax bait went after the whole nest. One spring later, no ants. Total cost, pennies. I had been paying for that spray for 15 years. 15 years of a problem I could have ended for the price of a spoonful of sugar and a mineral the Romans mined out of dry lakes. But here's where the tension sharpens, because if you're like me, you're starting to feel a little angry, and you should hold on to that feeling, because it gets worse before it gets better. Every single one of these uses I'm giving you replaces something you're paying for right now. And the companies selling you those replacements know their product is a repackaged version of something older and cheaper. That's the part that stings. This isn't lost knowledge in the sense that nobody remembers it. Somebody remembers it just fine. They just made sure it wasn't the version that showed up in your cart. Let me keep going, because the list is long, and each one is another dollar back in your pocket. Your dishwasher, if you've got spots on your glasses when they come out, that's your hard water again, the same enemy the Romans fought in their bathhouses and fountains. A tablespoon of borax in the bottom of the machine with your regular tablet cuts the film and leaves the glass clear. It also cleans the machine itself, because borax fights the mold and the funk that build up in the corners you never see. Then there's your toilet. Half a cup of borax in the bowl, let it sit overnight, brush it in the morning. It lifts the ring, it kills the odor, and it does it without the eye-watering fumes of the blue stuff you've been buying. The Romans were obsessive about their sanitation. They built the Cloaca Maxima, the great sewer of Rome, and parts of it still function today after more than 2,500 years. These were people who understood that cleanliness was mineral and water and maintenance, not perfume in a bottle. We swapped their durable simplicity for scented complexity, and we pay for it every month. Now here's a use most people have never even considered: your garbage disposal and your drains. Pour a quarter cup of borax down the drain, follow it with hot water, and it deodorizes and helps break down the grease film that grabs onto the inside of your pipes. It's gentler than the caustic drain openers that can eat your plumbing over time. I had a slow drain in my guest bathroom for 2 years. I kept meaning to call somebody. The borax and hot water routine, twice a week for a couple of weeks, and it ran clear. A plumber's visit in my area starts around $150. I spent nothing, but therefore you have to ask the bigger question, the one I couldn't shake once I started noticing the pattern. How did a civilization without electricity, without laboratories, without any of our instruments, figure out which mineral did which job? And the answer is the thing our modern world threw away first: observation over generations. A Roman fuller learned from the fuller who trained him, who learned from the one before. Knowledge stacked up for centuries in the hands of ordinary working people. It wasn't written in a marketing department, it was earned at a wash basin. Pliny the Elder is the key figure here, and I want you to really hear who this man was because it changed how I read all of this. He wrote a work called Naturalis Historia, the natural history, finished around 77 Anno Domini. It ran to 37 books. It was an attempt to write down everything the Roman world knew about the natural world: minerals, plants, animals, medicine, the works, tens of thousands of facts collected from hundreds of sources, many of which are now lost, meaning Pliny is the only reason we know them at all. And then, in 79 Anno Domini, when Mount Vesuvius erupted and buried Pompeii, Pliny sailed toward the disaster to rescue people and to see it up close. He died on that beach. The man collected knowledge until the moment it killed him. So when I read that this same man documented the mineral compounds used for cleaning, soldering, medicine, and preservation, I stopped rolling my eyes. This wasn't a costume party version of history. This was a working encyclopedia written by someone who took the natural world seriously enough to die studying it, and we let it gather dust. Now, I promised you this applies to your ordinary home this week, and I know some of you are still thinking this all sounds like a museum tour. So let me speak directly to you, the one who's convinced ancient methods are impractical curiosities that don't fit a modern life. This next part is built for exactly you, with no special tools, nothing to order, nothing to learn. Just a box from the laundry aisle in 10 minutes. Here's your all-purpose cleaner, the one bottle that replaces the shelf of 12. 2 teaspoons of borax, dissolved fully in a pint of warm water, poured into any spray bottle you already own. That's it. Shake it. That single bottle cleans your countertops, your stovetop, your bathroom tile, your sinks, and your appliance surfaces. It cuts grease, it deodorizes, and it doesn't leave the chemical smell that makes your eyes water in a small bathroom. I keep one under the kitchen sink and one in the bathroom. Between the two, I threw out 9 bottles. 9. I lined them up on the counter before I tossed them and added up the prices from the labels, and it came to just under $70 of product doing what a few cents of mineral does better. And for the grease that's really baked on your oven, your pans, the burnt ring on a casserole dish, you make a paste, borax, and just enough water to turn it into a spreadable cream. Smear it on, let it sit for a while, and scrub it off. It works as a gentle, abrasive, physical scrubbing power plus the alkaline lift, the same 2-part attack those Roman fullers used on greasy wool. No harsh oven cleaner, no gloves up to your elbows, no propping the windows open so you can breathe. I did my oven door with it last month, the one I'd given up on, and the baked on brown just wiped away. Here's another one for you, the ordinary home user, and this one I love because it's so quiet, musty smells, that cabinet under the sink, the trash can, the diaper pail if you've got little ones visiting, the corner of the basement that always smells like a wet dog. A small open container of borax absorbs and neutralizes odors the way a box of baking soda does, but it also discourages mold from setting up shop. Sprinkle a little dry borax in the bottom of your trash can under the bag. The smell that used to hit you when you lifted the lid, gone, and your carpets. Sprinkle dry borax lightly over a rug, let it sit for a bit, and vacuum it up. It pulls out odor and it kills the fleas and their eggs down in the fibers where the vacuum alone won't reach. Anyone with a dog or a cat knows the flea season racket, the sprays and the powders, with the warning labels a mile long. The Romans kept animals in and around the home constantly, and they leaned on mineral powders to manage pests. Same principle. Still works. A fraction of the cost. But here's where I have to raise the tension again, because I don't want you to walk away thinking this is only about saving a few dollars on cleaning spray. It's bigger than that. Every one of these small dependencies, the ant spray, the drain opener, the 12 bottles, the flea powder, was sold to you as convenience. And convenience is the most expensive thing you'll ever buy because you buy it again and again forever. The Roman household owned its knowledge. You've been renting yours back one product at a time. That's the trade that was made quietly over about 100 years, and nobody asked your permission. If you want to go deeper into exactly how that trade happened and what else the Romans knew that got quietly buried the same way, I've put it all into a book called Roman Roots. It goes further than any single video can, tracing the practical knowledge of the Roman household, the substances, the methods, the mindset, right into your front door. If that's what you're here for, you'll find it linked in the description. It's the book I wish I'd had before I spent 15 years buying the wrong things. Now, let me get into the uses that go beyond cleaning, because this is where people's jaws drop. Borax as a preservative and a hardener. The Romans and the Egyptians before them used mineral salts, natron, and borate compounds in preservation, including the preservation of the dead. That sounds grim, but the principle is beautiful. These minerals pull moisture out and stop decay. In your home, that means you can use borax to help dry and preserve flowers. Bury a fresh bloom gently in a mix of borax and cornmeal. Leave it a couple of weeks, and it dries with its color and shape held far better than air drying alone. My wife has a rose from a day that mattered to us, dried in borax, sitting on the shelf looking almost alive 2 years on. Then there's rust. A borax paste scrubbed onto rusted tools, hinges, or hardware helps lift the corrosion. And here the Roman connection gets genuinely interesting because the Romans were metal workers of the first order. They understood which substances protected and cleaned metal, and borax specifically has a relationship with metal that goes back to the ancient world in a way most people have never heard. Hold that thought, because it's the heart of what I'm going to show you at the end. Let me give you a health adjacent one, and I want to be careful and honest here because I'm a neighbor, not a doctor. So take this as history and as my own experience, not as a prescription. The Romans used mild mineral solutions as washes. A very dilute borax solution has been used for generations as a soak for tired, irritated skin and as a gentle cleaner for minor things around the house that touch your body, like combs and brushes. I soak my hairbrushes in a little warm borax water, and the buildup that used to cake between the bristles rinses right off. Again, mild, diluted, external, but it's another job the old mineral quietly handles. Here's one for anyone who works with their hands, and I know a lot of you do, because this audience built things and fixed things their whole lives. Borax mixed into a paste is a powerful hand cleaner for the deep grime that soap won't touch. Grease, garden dirt, the black stuff that gets into the creases of your palms after an afternoon in the garage. It works as a scrubbing agent that lifts the grime instead of just smearing it around. The Romans, remember, ran an entire economy on manual labor, and their bath culture was built around getting genuinely clean using oil, a scraper called a strigil, and mineral compounds. They took cleanliness seriously as a daily discipline, not a weekly chore. And your windows and mirrors, that streak-free shine you're paying a premium for in a blue bottle, a little borax dissolved in warm water, wiped on and buffed off with a dry cloth, leaves glass clear without streaks. It cuts the film that ordinary window cleaners sometimes leave behind. I did my bathroom mirror with it and stood there like a fool, genuinely surprised there were no streaks, because I'd been told my whole adult life that I needed a special product for that exact job. But therefore, here's the question that pulls everything tight, the one I want you to sit with before I give you the finale. If one cheap mineral can clean your whole house, kill your pests, preserve your keepsakes, soften your water, and clear your drains, then what exactly have you been buying all these years? And who decided you should buy 20 things instead of one? Because that decision was made. It didn't happen by nature. Somewhere along the line, the single box solution the Romans would have recognized got broken apart into a shelf of little bottles, each one patented, branded, and priced, and the old knowledge got quietly filed under useless history so you'd never think to ask for it back. That brings me to the finale, the one use I hinted at, the one buried in a Roman goldsmith's method that changed how I see this entire mineral. And I found it not in a modern cleaning guide, because it's not in any modern cleaning guide, but tracing borax back through Pliny's writing on metals in Book 33 of the Natural History, where he discusses the substances the Romans used to work gold. Here's the story, and it's a real hero's journey for a humble box of powder. The ancient goldsmiths had a problem. To join two pieces of gold, you need to melt a bond between them, but heated metal instantly forms a skin of oxide, a tarnish, that stops the join from taking. They discovered that certain mineral fluxes, and borax became the king of them, would strip that skin away at the moment of heating and let the metal flow together cleanly. Borax was the secret that made fine gold soldering possible. It cleans metal at a level so deep it works at the point of fire itself. This knowledge passed from the ancient world through the goldsmiths of the medieval era and right into the jeweler's bench today. Borax is still the flux jewelers reach for. That thread never broke. It just got hidden inside a trade most of us never enter. So here's what you do with that ancient goldsmith's secret this weekend, in your own home, with no torch and no workshop. Because the same power that strips oxide off gold will bring the shine back to your tarnished metal and your dull jewelry and your dingy silverware. You line a bowl with aluminum foil, shiny side up. You add hot water, a tablespoon of borax, and a tablespoon of baking soda, and you stir until it dissolves. You lay your tarnished silver pieces in so they touch the foil, and you watch. Within a couple of minutes, the tarnish that you thought needed hours of rubbing with a smelly polish and a rag just lifts off, pulled from the metal into the solution, because a real chemical exchange is happening between the foil, the mineral bath, and the tarnish. The silver comes out bright. No scrubbing, no expensive polish, no black stained rags. I did this the first time with my grandfather's pocket watch chain, a piece I'd assumed was ruined, gone dark, that I'd hidden in a drawer for years because I couldn't stand to look at how neglected it had gotten. 10 minutes in that borax bath and it looked like the day he carried it. I stood at my kitchen counter and I'll admit my eyes stung a little, because it wasn't just the chain that came back. It was the sense that something had been taken from me, this whole body of plain, tested, working knowledge, and I'd just gotten a piece of it back. That's the thing about borax and about the Romans. This was never about a laundry booster. It was about a way of living where a person understood the substances in their own home and didn't have to trust a label written by someone selling them something. The Romans wrote it down. Pliny died guarding that kind of knowledge. And for a few dollars and a box from the bottom shelf, you can hold the working edge of it in your own two hands this weekend. So let me leave you with the truth of it, plain, the way a neighbor would over the fence. You didn't lose this knowledge because it stopped working. It works better than ever. You lost it because somebody realized you'd pay more for 12 bottles than for one box. And they were right. And they've been right at your expense for a very long time. But you've got it back now. One mineral, 16 jobs, 2,000 years of proof. And you're the kind of person who feels the difference between something that's genuinely tested and something that's merely sold. If you weren't, you'd have clicked away in the first 10 seconds when I said borax and Romans in the same breath. You stayed because part of you already suspected the old way was better and cheaper and quietly buried, and you were right. So do this for me. Tell me in the comments which one you're trying first. Is it the ant bait with the sugar, the all-purpose spray that replaces the 12 bottles, or the goldsmith silver bath with the foil? I read them, and I want to know which use surprised you the most. Because there's one I nearly cut from this video, and I'm curious if it's the same one that stuck with you. Leave a comment, even just one word, because this audience never speaks up, and I genuinely want to hear you. And if you feel what I felt at that kitchen counter, that quiet anger and that quiet relief, then you belong with the people gathering here to dig this knowledge back up, one lost method at a time. This isn't a channel, it's a recovery effort. Because next, I'm going to show you what the Romans knew about preserving food without a refrigerator, a single ingredient they kept in every kitchen that kept meat safe through a Mediterranean summer. And once you see it, your grocery bill will never look the same again. Stay with me. We're only just getting started digging this up. This video gave you the overview, but inside the Roman way circle, I walk you through all 16 borax uses, Pliny's method, step by step, right where this left off. Get stuck? Ask me your own question. And a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be alone either. So many old ways folks like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel any time with one click.